What's up? Welcome to the channel. Today we are reviewing the Indian Chieftain Elite versus the Chieftain Limited. And I'm gonna tell you everything I know about these bikes, what differentiates the two, which one may even be best for you. I'm gonna tell you all the features that these two bikes have to offer and tell you where that difference comes from as far as your pricing from the Elite to the Limited. Big thanks to American Biker here in Latson, South Carolina for letting me come out and bring these two bikes to you in one video to go head to head. If you need anything, maybe new Indians or used Harleys or whatever, come see Rob at American Biker. Again, big thanks to those guys and their continued support. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Now on the surface of it, this is one of the easiest comparisons I've ever had to do. If we look at the starting price of these, you're at about $28,799, so somewhere in that range to $33-ish. So you have about $4,000 difference between the two bikes. Now, full disclaimer, this is a 2022 and this one is a 2020. That is a big difference, especially in this video, but I'm gonna talk about some of this stuff that does come on the 2022. So if you're looking at both bikes, they're brand new side by side, you're still gonna have that information. Even though these bikes aren't totally fair as far as the year, you're still gonna have enough information here where you understand why I choose the bike that I do. Now, before we talk about the differences, let's talk about where these bikes are the same. They are both powered by the Thunderstroke 116. That is an air and oil cooled motor that was introduced in 2020. And it is sporting 126 foot-pounds of torque. This thing is an absolute monster. But you also have the addition in both bikes of ride modes. So this gives you normal, touring, and sport mode. Allows you to change up the feel of the bike a little bit, which is kind of nice. If you're, let's just say, on a long ride and you're just cruising, well, put it in tour mode. If you're cruising around town and you want to open up the throttle and you want it to be a bit more responsive, that's where sport mode comes in. And let me tell you, these things are super responsive on the throttle in sport mode. They're both rocking a 6-speed transmission, 830 pounds with all of the fluids in there. One of the nice things that Indian does, though, I've talked about this a bunch in the past, is that you don't feel all of that weight. When you get a Harley Davidson off the kickstand, you know it's 850 pounds or whatever. With this, though, they distribute the weight so well, it literally almost feels like a Softail or something when you get it off the kickstand. It feels really light. They did a great job of balancing that weight. 25.6 seat height, so if you're vertically challenged, like myself, 5'7", 5'8" on a good day, with a good set of boots, then you can still flat foot this bike, no problem. And because it feels a little bit lighter, it's easier to move around, it's a little bit easier to back up. Don't get it twisted now, it's still 800 and something pounds, but it still feels a little bit lighter. But if you're a little bit smaller like yours truly, it's a little bit easier to maneuver around. Both bikes come with adjustable windshields. They also come with remote lockable bags. This is a feature I absolutely love that Indian does. On Harley Davidson, not that this is a comparison, but just to give you an idea, you have to go up to the CVO model, which is $42,000, $44,000 in order to get that. Through Indian, you spend $28,000, that's not nothing for sure, but you still get the ability to do that for a lot less money. Bikes are also equipped with cruise control, the ride command, which is a really nice and responsive system. It seems like the 2022, they did something there to make it just a bit more responsive, maybe a better processor or something, I don't really know. But both systems are really good as far as the ride command goes, TPMS sensors, and they both have 5.5 gallon tanks, so it's gonna give you plenty of range on wherever you're going. If you're going on a long trip or something like that, you're not gonna be stopping a whole lot with this teardrop style gas tank. Looks really good. Now, both bikes are equipped with LEDs all the way around. One benefit you have of the new 2022 though is it has adaptive LED headlights, which are really fantastic. But as they sit, LEDs all the way around, which is great. Bikes also feature a 19 and a 16-inch wheel, and they are kind of like the custom bagger style, right? They sit a little bit lower, the bags are a little bit lower, so it does give you that custom feel straight from the factory, which in my opinion, is one of the best looks on a bagger. Now, both of these bikes actually have chrome finishes. The Indian Chieftain Dark Horse is for you guys that like all blacked out, which is personally the way I would go as far as the aesthetics there. But if you like chrome, both of these bikes come chromed out. To round out the similarities, both bikes come with the Gunfighter seat, which looks absolutely premium. Now, neither one of these are heated, but on the new 2022 Elite, it actually does come with heated grips, which is a nice addition. War bonnets in the front, that's just a personal thing. I think it looks really freaking awesome. It makes the front end stand out as well. And what Indian has done over the past few years is they've really slimmed and thinned out this fairing and the way it's designed. Of course, it is a fork mounted fairing, and this thing, you know, next to Harley, obviously, I like the aesthetics of Harley just a little bit. I talked about all of this stuff in a recent video I did if you want to check it out, but this still looks incredible. I mean, you know, if I were to just pick one, I would probably just take either one. Both bikes, they've done a really nice job of making them not look so cluttered, where they had the passing lamps in the fairings. I believe those were on the like Roadmaster and stuff like that. Never really cared for that. This looks really good. It does affect your lighting a little bit because of the way they have the LED light, how it's just really up top until you turn the headlights on. So it limits your light a little bit, but I'm sure there's companies out there, and I haven't looked this up, but I'm sure there's companies that do passing lamps similar to Harley that'll give you a little bit more light up front. That's one thing with the Chieftain. I'm not super impressed with the lighting, but at least it's LEDs. Now that we've covered those differences, let's get into what makes these bikes truly different. Let's start with the paint job. First of all, these things are hand painted. 25 hours goes into each one, and each one is a little bit different. That is cool, man. That, to me, that's like custom bagger territory straight from the factory. Love that. It's that black over candy red, and they've added a ton, actually a little bit too much in my opinion, a ton of flakes to this thing, but it looks really stunning. It definitely screams, hey, look at me, I'm different. So it has that going for it. This bike also has the inlays and the floorboards. It has the 400 watt sound system compared to 100 watt of the Chieftain Limited. That's a lot of extra power, plus you get the 2 speakers in the bags, waterproof, all of that good stuff. Both of them have 18 gallons of storage in the bags, but when you have sound back here, especially for your passenger, I know Mrs. Heckshire complains about this all the time on the Road Glide, it's hard to hear. Once you get over 50, 55, it's hard for the passenger to hear, and then once it gets over 60, for me, the driver, it's hard for me to even hear just the 2 speakers. This is a huge upgrade in and of itself. 2022 Indian Elites also come with lights in the saddlebags as well, so that's a nice little upgrade. You have this tinted and flared windshield, so they're both power adjustable, but this one is a little bit more premium looking for sure. On the new 2022 Elites, they actually come with that bronzed engine look. On this model specifically, it comes with the red push rod cover, so it still distinguishes itself a little bit, but definitely not as much as the new one. The new one looks freaking awesome. You also have more comfortable pegs here, and they're really like mini floorboards for your passenger with that same type of inlay, which looks good. You have the painted Indian head on the timing cover there. So you have these little differences, but the big ones, the paint, sound system, and this one has better looking wheels. And of course on the new ones, just to recap, adaptive LEDs, you have the lights in the saddlebags, you have the backlit switches, and then you also have the heated grips for even more value for your money. So I recently rode the Indian Chieftain, so I found no reason to really ride this one. Same specs, same shocks, same engine, same everything. Not for this review. But you can, again, check out my thoughts on this bike. But just to recap, it is great in town. But one thing I noticed versus the Street Glide, a little bit more buffeting on this one compared to the Street Glide. So I imagine you're gonna get about the same with this, a little bit lower windshield, so maybe even a little bit more buffeting and a little bit more vibration than what I felt in the Street Glide. Is it like, oh my God, this thing is just terrible? No. still super smooth. I had the opportunity to ride both bikes back to back, and that's where I seen those little differences. Other than that, they ride smooth, they take the bumps well. The sound system and what you get, the ride command, TPMS sensors, ride modes, hard lockable bags, all that stuff for this price range, pretty incredible. So here's what I say, if we're at 28, let's just say 28 and a half, compared to, you know, I've seen these at 33, I've seen them at 34 too in other places, but if we just say 33, let's say we have a $5,000 difference or $4,500 difference. With the new 22s, I mean, I would say it is most definitely worth the upgrade, because you got to think, if you're in this market, that means you're also looking at CVOs, which again are 42, 44-ish, somewhere in there. A lot of money, right? For 34,000, even on the high end of 34,000, you get a lot. The only thing you don't get that's in the CVO really is the RDRS. But if you don't care about that, you still get the TPMS sensors. That's included in RDRS. ABS, all of that good stuff. Plus you get the ride modes and some other things that I talked about that you don't get in the CVO. This is a great value. I'm really impressed with Indian and their value and what they give you. It's really incredible. So I would say 22 for 22. I think the Elite is the way to go. If you're not in this market though, they're almost two different markets. It's almost like you have the base models and then you go up to like the specials or like the Elite and the Dark Horse. But then once you start bumping up into 34, I feel like it's a little bit more limited, for lack of better words, than it would be for this market. So if you're looking at going one way or another, you're gonna get more than enough bang for your buck to justify what you're getting. Paint, sound, and the new ones, heated grips, adaptive LED, lights in the bags, custom little trim pieces on the motor itself. The 116 is amazing. The freaking wheels, you're talking about a lot of money, and they give it to you, you know, $4,500, $5,000 more, somewhere in there. So this is an awesome machine. If you don't really care about the sound system, if you're like, hey man, I just want an Indian Chieftain, but I want it a little bit better than base, I want the motor, I want the ride modes, I want the ride command. You definitely want the ride command, for sure. The Chieftain Elite or Dark Horse is the way to go. If you want a little bit more though, this thing is definitely worth the money. I would go, if it was up to me, with the Dark Horse. So I kind of baited you a little bit. I told you which one I'd go with, but the Dark Horse is just more my style. If they had this one and all blacked out and I was in this market to put that kind of money up front, I would go with the Elite. I think it's just, it gives you so much bang for your buck, and it's an incredible, awesome machine. So hopefully some of y'all aren't too disappointed I didn't ride this thing. Again, I just felt it kind of unnecessary to do. I think one thing they do as well is they actually give you the mirrors. I don't think I mentioned that, but you actually get, you know, a little bit better looking mirror too. But regardless, man, two great motorcycles. I'd go with the Elite if they had a blacked out version. Hopefully they will do that in the future. Love to see what your thoughts are on the two bikes. If you own one or the other, why did you choose the one you did? Let me know down below. If there's any other bikes that you would like to see right here on the channel, make sure you leave those down below as well. See you in the next one. And as always, hold the rubber side down.